Hey YouTube, Ben from the future here, and just wanted to make a quick little announcement and apology. So first with the apologies, I'm going to say sorry in advance for the glare. I got to the site a little bit late, and I was rushed for time in terms of setup. So little apologies there. Hopefully everything turns out okay after post. Secondly, the announcements. If you haven't checked out the Happy New Year announcement video for 2024, I highly suggest that you check it out. It just has a little bit of a plan for January and early February, and it has two sub goals. So once we get to 600 subs and then 1,000 subs, there's going to be two separate giveaways. So if you want to know what we're giving away, check out the video there. Hope you enjoy the coverage. I'm definitely a little bit out of practice, so hope you guys enjoy nonetheless. Hello, Legacy community. Welcome back to the face-to-face tour Legacy side event coverage. So here we are starting round 3. Player 1 I'm going to refer to as Dan, and then player 2 side I'm going to refer to as Daniel. So it is a Dan versus Dan match. So Dan, player 1, is going to be playing Cephalid Breakfast, and then Daniel is going to be playing Dimir Reanimator on player 2 side. And I think their last names are, from what I remember, they are kind of similar, so I don't even know if I can go by their last names. But yeah, we are going to see them resolve mulligans here. Looks like they're both keeping their 7s, and Dan is going to start us off with an Underground Sea into turn 1 Shuko. So he does have turn 2 win if he can resolve the Cephalid Illusionist in his hand. Daniel is gonna start off with a Polluted Delta and pass the turn. Dan is going to crack the Flooded Strand, go down to 19, and find a Tundra. I might end up just referring to player 1, player 2. It might be a little confusing if I just flip-flop between Dan and Daniels. So I think he's gonna just try to jam the Cephalid Illusionist here, because if player 2 doesn't have a response, then he kind of just wins the game. But player 2 is definitely going to fetch for Underground Sea. Looks like he's using the mana. Okay, he's floating a mana and then dazing the Cephalid Illusionist. Player 1 just gonna... So he floats a black mana, and player 1 gonna pass the turn, but before he does, player 2 is just going to try to use the black mana to resolve an Entomb. So he is Dimir Reanimator. So this is kind of what we wanted to see. I'm sure that player 2 is ecstatic that the enabler resolved. So now now the easy part comes where he just needs to reanimate it. Usually getting the target into the graveyard is the hardest part, or getting into the graveyard safely at least. But we'll see if he is down a land, so he can't do a turn like a 2 mana reanimate. So it has to be an actual reanimate. There we go. So reanimate targeting Gristlebrand drops him down to 11. Will he draw 7 cards? It is shields down, so he doesn't have to worry about a Bowmaster. I don't even think that Cephalid Breakfast plays Bowmasters. I don't think it really... That's not what it wants to be doing. Basically, player 2 has free reign to do whatever he wants to do. He can just rip his opponent's hand apart, beat in with this Gristlebrand, make sure there's no removal spells. But yeah, he has a lot of options here. There's an Unmask pitching another Entomb, and player 1 revealing Ponder, Step Through, Narcomoeba, and a Teferi Time Raveler. I think we take either the Ponder or the Teferi, depending on what other discard spells we have in hand. If we could get rid of the Teferi, I think you're in a comfortable position. There's a Lotus Petal, cracking Lotus Petal. There's a Dark Ritual. There's 3 mana. 3 mana is going to Entomb, brings him down to 2. I think there was a Shallow Grave that we saw also in player 2's hand. So I think if he searches for like another Gristlebrand or an Atraxa, then he can Shallow Grave, and then Shallow Grave gives the reanimated target haste. And he can get his life total back up, and then he can draw another 7 cards if needed. It looks like he's debating on the Archon of Cruelty. Okay, there is an Archon of Cruelty. Yeah, so just gonna use up the black mana, bring in the Archon, gains 3 life, deals 3 life. Opponent discards 2 cards. 2 cards that are probably going to be discarded are either going to be Teferi Narcomoeba. Actually, no, I think you would discard the step through. Is the wizard cycling 2? I need to double check. Player 2 gonna attack with the Archon of Cruelty, and its attack trigger is gonna go off, making player 1 discard a card, lose 3 life, and sack a creature, but there's no creatures to sack. And then player 2 is going to draw a card, gain 3 life to bring his life total back up a little bit, and he's also gonna get to draw a card. Very interesting. This is lethal on board, though. If you can't deal with this Gristlebrand, then yeah, it's gonna be game over. All right, so player 2 takes the game over Cephalid Breakfast. So Dimir Reanimator up 1 game. Okie dokie, here we are for game 2. And player 1 is going to be taking the play. So Cephalid Breakfast on the play against a Dimir Reanimator. So we'll take a look at his hand. There's a Force of Will, Urza Saga, 2 Flooded Strands, Thassa's Oracle, Ponder, and a second Force of Will. So pretty good hand against Reanimator. He will need to do a Force of Will check. So there's a Flooded Strand, gonna crack it and most likely cast a Ponder. Fetches for a Tundra. So sorry for the glare on player 1's side lands. I think they're gonna be like that for the rest of the coverage. But it was the best positioning that we could find for the feature match area. So player 1 firing off the Ponder. Checks Brainstorm, a 3rd Force of Will, and an Urza Saga. I mean, okay, so he does have a Urza Saga already. Probably doesn't need the 3rd Force of Will is what he's considering. I don't know. Against Reanimator, especially like, I guess it doesn't really matter. There's not really a big difference between blue and red, but I mean, all right. So player 2 gonna draw for turn. They need to change the life totals. I think player 2 needs to be fixed. He should be at 20. Yep, there we go. Perfect. All right, so let's see. Player 2 fires off an Unmask, exiling a Reanimate. Probably just good to let this one go because you don't have the triple force backup. So I think whatever he takes, he's going to be able to stop the first big play or whatever is dangerous. Is that a Doomsday? That is a Doomsday. Okay, Unmask takes the Force of Will. So still has double force, Thassa's Oracle. Alright, and player 2 passing the turn at the beginning of the upkeep fires off Entomb. And looks like he's letting that resolve. I think he was trying to bait out one of the forces, but he just seems to let it resolve. Oh, sorry, no, the player 2 fetched and then tried to cast the Entomb, and player 1 countered the Entomb. So that's a good bait out, because I think, is this going to be a Doomsday? Draws an island for turn. Plays a Brainstorm. Doesn't have a 3rd source of black mana, so looking for a Dark Ritual, I think? He finds the Dark Ritual! Wow, the 3rd card off the Brainstorm! Sorry, I got tripped up. It kind of looked like a Reanimate. Wow, is this gonna be a Doomsday? We're gonna have three Doomsday kills in our or three Doomsday games in a row. Wow, I sure know how to pick feature matches, eh? All right, plays Island, casts Careful Study, draws two cards. It's an Atraxa and a Doomsday. Those are the two cards that were cast off of the brain or that were put back from the brainstorm. So I think the biggest thing that he's debating right now is whether he should take the Dark Ritual into Doomsday line, or he could give up playing the Doomsday, use the Dark Ritual. I think there's an Exhume in his hand. So he can pitch the Atraxa Doomsday to Exhume. But it looks like he's opting to go for the Doomsday play. He still needs to discard cards from the Careful Study. So I think that's what he just caught himself. Yeah, he had too many cards in hand. Okay, so discarding Reanimate, Exhume. So he had to Reanimate, it wasn't Exhume. Sorry, he had discarded Reanimate, Atraxa. He had the Reanimate instead of the Exhume. Casts the Doomsday. So cracks the Lotus Petal for the 1 black, generates 3 black from the Dark Ritual, and then casts the Doomsday. So now we are going to create a Doomsday pile. So this is going to take a little bit. It looks like he picked out an Careful Study. There's an Edge of Autumn. There's the Thassa's Oracle. I don't know which draw spell that was. We're going to have a quick look. I think there's a Careful Study in the pile as well. So I think he's only chosen 4 out of his 5 cards. Still in the tank. I wish we could have a little better of an angle. I think this is an ongoing problem with my camera setup is we have a hard time seeing player 2's side. So he's reconsidering the Careful Study. Looks like he's considering another Lotus Petal. This is just a future note. For people playing against Doomsday, if your opponents are taking this long to do a Doomsday pile, you can call a judge and have them just address the slow play. So don't feel like you're being a negative Nancy if you're calling on an opponent for a slow play, because they should know their lines. They chose to play the deck for a reason. They should know their deck. They should know what they're doing. Especially when it comes to Doomsday, you should be practicing your piles and knowing what to do. And it should not take you 5 minutes to make piles. But you know, it's kind of a friendly event. It's the first big event of the year in our city. So player 1's being a really good sport about it. But yeah, don't feel afraid to call a judge for kind of running the clock. But yeah, looks like player 2 has finally settled on their 5. He has passed the turn. Urza Saga is going to tick up after player 1 draws for the turn. Down comes a Flooded Strand. Is it a cantrip? We have a Brainstorm. There's a Swords to Plowshares. Alright, so we're working with Surgical Extraction, Swords to Plowshare, Force of Will. This is unfortunate because there's no second blue spell for Force of Will. So he's got 2 mana up. Not sure what the play is here. I have no idea what's gonna be in player 2's pile for the Doomsday, because he started off with a Reanimator deck, and then you got into a Doomsday deck, so I have no idea what could be in his pile. Alright, player 2 will draw for the turn and just pass. Player 1's gonna untap, he's gonna draw for the turn, Urza Saga gonna tick up. There's a Ponder from the draw for the turn. I think he's considering making a construct, but I think playing the Ponder might be a little bit more valuable here. You also run the risk. If you cast the Ponder, then you might not hit a blue source, and that's kind of scary. I wonder if there's a Cavern of Souls in the Doomsday pile. Looks like he is making a construct. Gonna resolve the Urza Saga. What do you grab? Like a Shuko? Tormod's Crypt? I have no idea. There's a Lotus Petal, okay. So I guess he could cast a Ponder off of this Lotus Petal, but I don't know if that's what you want to be doing either. I think he just passed the turn, and then there's a Careful Study. Is he gonna let this resolve? That is the question. Okay, draws 2 cards. I couldn't get a glance at them. There is a Thassa's Oracle in the hand now, so Thassa's Oracle not in the deck. Discards Edge of Autumn, and I don't know what that other card is. It's gonna draw the Shuko for turn. Nothing great. There's a Ponder. Finds land, Brainstorm. So I'm sure that the last card in the deck is a Cavern of Souls. Like, there's no way you're playing a Doomsday pile and you don't include a Cavern of Souls, because there's going to be so many blue decks running around. You have to have a way of forcing through that Thassa's Oracle. So I'm sure, like, because player 2 had to discard 2 cards, we know that the 1 card in his hand is a Thassa's Oracle. The last card has to be a Cavern of Souls in the deck. Surgical Extractions, the Edge of Autumn. Reveals Thassa's Oracle, and the last card in the deck is a Cavern of Souls, and I think that's going to do it. Player 2 is going to draw for turn, play the Cavern, and then slam the Oracle, and there's nothing that Cephalid Breakfast can do about it. Because 0 cards in the deck, even if he Swords to Plowshares the Thoracle, there's 0 is still going to equal 0. And he's still going to be able to win the game. Casts a Brainstorm and finds 3 more lands. Pretty sure that 2 of them we knew about because of the Ponder. Yep, and that is the game. So, Dimir Doomsday Reanimator takes it over Cephalid Breakfast. 2-0. Alright, we will see you guys for round 4.